Hey, welcome to Make More Music, the podcast that connects people to music and one another. My name's Chris, and I'm a board-certified music therapist. Thanks for joining in these initial episodes of the podcast. If you want to join our community, you can follow on Instagram at make.more.music. And ultimately, we're just sharing the stories of different music and music-related professionals to show you that it's not just starving artists and it's not rock star. There is in between. There are careers and viable pathways in the music industry. Today, I'm super excited to share the story of my cousin, Darian Sanders, and how he has landed a big break and is now the understudy for Simba in the traveling Broadway production of The Lion King. He talks about that and doing all kinds of other ensemble roles and just his unique journey that got him there, that shows there's no one path to any way in the music industry, which I think is awesome. So without further ado, here's my cousin, Darian Sanders. All right, Darien, thanks for being here. It's so awesome. A, this is the inaugural interview, but B, just the fact that knowing you obviously very personally, for those of you all that don't know, Darien and I are like technically like cousins by marriage, but we're really more like brothers-in-law.
Absolutely.
Our wives grew up like sisters. They are cousins, but we're all very interconnected. Darian's been at a lot of big moments in my life. He sang at our wedding. He's been my worship leader. He's sang at my daughter's baby dedication. Yeah. And then like I've literally just went to a bar before and heard your band play back in the day and like stuff like that. So I'm super excited now to talk with him about kind of his newer role. He is now in the traveling Broadway production of The Lion King.
Yes.
And with that, he is in an ensemble role and also is in the understudy role of Simba. We're hoping, we're going tonight and we're crossing our fingers we get to see that if it all works out. But very blessed. I mean, his son, my nephew, and my daughter, both as like 2-year-olds, got to go to multiple rehearsals. Like they are incredibly spoiled. But so I was listening, like I said, to your other podcast. We'll link to that later. But your other podcast with Kyle, and you talked about your backstory, and I had several moments where I was like, this is embarrassing. I don't know a lot of these things. So just let's go way back. First, yeah. I just want you to recall, like, what are some of your first musical memories? So literally, it could even just be like flashes of memories, like little baby stuff. And then just talk to me about your musical journey. You know, who inspired you? What inspired you to get into music? What instruments have you learned? Were you in band? I know some of your story, but what did you do growing up? And then what's the long winding road that got you to here?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, super, super blessed to be here. You know, I love you. So I'm super excited to be here and talk a little bit about my journey and my path and all those things. But with flashbacks from childhood, I would say little snippets I remember I'm one of 8 kids. And so I was the baby for 7 years. So I was child number 6. And then twins came after me. But I remember even being the youngest of 6 for a while, watching snippets of Michael Jackson, MC Hammer, and then as we got older, my sisters, loving NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. So watching that, and then going through the Mariah Carey, like that whole phase and that whole thing on TV. And so watching different things, Whitney Houston. So my background with music and watching it has been very vast, from gospel music to secular music and everything in between. And so I explain to people all the time, my genre that I love is anything that I can understand, aka screamo music is about the only thing that that I don't listen to, and I say because I don't hear the words in that. And
Perfect. So you leave that to me.
I'm just
okay, cool. Good.
Oh, so because of that, I have listened, watched, been a part of a lot of different musical aspects, and so that's kind of the general basis of of how I got introduced to music. But truly, all of my siblings did band before me. And so I grew up watching them doing performances and going to rehearsals and practice and all those things. And so for me, it was ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be in the band because all my siblings were in the band. And then when I got into 4th grade, I started, I finally decided what instrument I wanted to play, and I wanted to play the trumpet. So bought a little $100 trumpet at a garage sale and started in band, and wanted to be a high school band director ever since the 4th grade. And so kind of walked through that process through elementary, middle, and high school. Ended up going to UK on a full ride scholarship, doing music education. And in the midst of being there playing trumpet, I actually started to sing in the a cappella group at UK, which was the Acoustic Cats. And that kind of opened my eyes to the singing aspect that I'd never really done before. Growing up, I could always sing, but I didn't know how well I could sing. Looking back on it, my family would have me sing at birthday parties and national anthem for different things. I remember there was one time there was a talent show at a library, and my mom had me do it, and I was like super nervous to do it, and I didn't know why I was doing it and all these things, but like that's one of the first performances that I remember.
How old were you?
I don't even remember. Yeah. Like it's just one of those things of like, as I've been talking about my story, a flashback of that came, and I was like, I was like, oh, I've sang before, but I don't it never was like for me or initiated by me. So it wasn't really ever
your thing.
Yeah, my thing. It was somebody else telling me, hey, you can do this, or hey, you're doing this. I was like, okay.
So you were trumpet primary?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
And
trumpet was my first instrument.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's what.
Southern Middle, 6th grade.
Morton Middle. Come on.
It is.
Mustangs versus Storm.
That's
all.
That's good.
Oh.
So, tell me, where did that path go kind of after college? Because obviously you're not a band director now. So what did that kind of lead to? Where did that go next?
Yeah. So because I started singing in college in the a cappella group, you had to be in a choir. And so I just chose to be in men's choir. And that kind of was the first choir interaction that I ever had in any kind of somewhat formal training when it came to singing. And so just in rehearsals, just in warming up in the choir, it taught me a few things just about breath control as far as the singer is concerned, because I had breath control as far as the instrumentalist. But that kind of just opened my eyes to a few things. And then while I was singing in that choir, I ended up becoming a believer in 2006. And so that kind of took me along the path of kind of jumping in and diving into the church. And I ended up not finishing it at UK and ended up just working full-time and then being in the church part-time as far as a worship leader. And so when I did that, it was very weird, because the moment that I got baptized in 2006, it was literally Palm Sunday, and then I sang after I got baptized. And then ever since that moment, I was singing in church. And so it was like I got thrown into this worship leader aspect that I wasn't really sure of, but God had worked out my talents in me getting there. And so just walking through that process for the next several years, it went from me singing at church as a guest, and as a guest worship leader, as a specialist that was just singing some different songs, to, hey, you are now a worship leader and a full-on worship pastor. And so that kind of took me down the journey of diving into ministry full-time. And so I did that. And so while I was doing ministry full-time, I was actually serving in the community in different areas. And so one of the things was I would sing the national anthem, going back to my childhood, just randomly at games. And so I was singing the national anthem at a UK game, surprisingly enough, UK versus U of L women's basketball game. And my manager was actually at the game. And so she heard me singing. She went back to New York and saw and talked to one of her clients. And one of her clients was actually a really good friend of mine. And so they connected us via Facebook. And then all of a sudden she was like, hey, have you ever thought about musical theater? And I was like, no, not really. Not at all, honestly. Like I've seen different things about it. but never thought about being a performer, never considered myself an actor of that sort. And so because of that, she was like, well, hey, how about we start with this Broadway review that the University of Kentucky does in the summer.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where my musical theater world started.
That's fun. Yeah. There were several things about your story, and I heard this in Kyle's too. I was like, I didn't know, because same for me, I didn't become a believer till I was like 21. So I was like, I didn't know we kind of had that thing going too.
Yeah.
So I remember, what was that show called? The UK one?
Grand Night for Singing.
Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to that and seeing you lead a few of those kind of tracks. So you're doing that. You transition to this big worship leader position. At now, you get this role at first, a lead worship pastor position at a church locally.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go up really to the big leagues after that. You go up now. I just heard that they're the 4th biggest church in America.
Yeah.
That's insane. So you get this big wig worship leader role, and you continue doing more Broadway shows or more local productions.
Yeah.
So talk me through, I know you've had a couple of auditions in New York aside from Lion King. So talk me through that. Like, what were you thinking? How did that process go of, getting some auditions, getting some callbacks, kind of that dealing with that unknown of all of those things before the Lion King kind of happens upon you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say that I started truly in musical theater about 3 years ago. There's a regional theater, there's a regional theater in Lexington called the Lexington Regional, the Lex Theater Company. And they started about 5 years ago. And so I auditioned for them for a couple of years and wasn't selected for the first couple of shows of their season. And so they really just encouraged me to kind of hone in my gifts and my skills. So 5 years ago, they launched with a Concert with the Stars. And what their motto is, today's Broadway stars with tomorrow's Broadway hopefuls. Mm-hmm. And so I was one of the Broadway hopefuls that sang in their first concert to kind of launch their theater company. And it was really cool because I got to sing a solo, but then I also got to do a duet with Jonathan Groff. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to perform with a Broadway veteran, a film and TV veteran, and somebody who I really admired for what he has done and what he does in the theater and film and TV world, he really encouraged me in a lot of ways of, you have what it takes to do it. You just have to believe in yourself and actually do it. And so that kind of just started this churning inside of me of like, hey, I could potentially do this for a living.
Big time. Yeah. Big time.
And to have somebody that was in the field doing what I wanted to do or doing what I thought I wanted to do, kind of co-sign and validate what I was doing, it kind of sparked some things inside of me. And so for the next 2 years, I just kind of on and off were just talking about doing it. But then for me, it was like that third year when the theater company was going, it was like, okay, I'm going to full bore get into this. So what do I need to do? I need to take dance lessons and dance classes. So I went to private classes, and then I went to just open ballet classes and just wanted to hone in skills that I never used and never thought about. I got into some acting classes because it was fresh to me. I never done it. And so doing that, I kind of landed my first role in a major regional theater company, and I was in Legally Blonde. And so for the next 3 seasons, I was performing in Lexington, but then even more so, like getting to perform with veterans of the Broadway world and up-and-coming people that are now in Broadway musicals all across the world and in New York. It was like a on-site training ground for me. And so both getting that training, it kind of launched me into going to New York and auditioning for random things. So went and auditioned for Motown. There was other random productions going on. And then my manager kind of got me into the process of going to audition for Hamilton. So I remember
we had our fingers so crossed for that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you got a callback.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it was crazy because it started out with a video audition, and then it went to an open call, and then I got called back in front of, the casting team, and it just got, I got called back for random things. And it was one of those things of the more and more you get called back, the more and more it kind of settles in like, oh, this could be real. This could really happen.
What are some of the, especially because I feel like Hamilton was the first time we all were like, oh my gosh, this could be it. So from your perspective, when you're making, I think the video kind of audition is like probably really awkward because it's like, oh, I really hope this translates. But like between that and some of the live auditions, what were you feeling at that time? Were you zoned in? Were you nervous? A mix of things? What was going on in your head?
Yeah, when I first started auditioning for Hamilton, it was one of those things of probably the anxiety of like, oh, this is like big wigs. Like this is like really the show that's the show.
And it's like as hot as it could be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And because of that, I think I was a little nervous for the video audition, but even more so when I got the call back to go up there. It was one of those things of like, hey, like there's a little bit of interest in you, so they want you to come to an open call, but you have an appointment. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go to this. I'll do this. I'll see what happens. But then the more and more it started happening, the more it sank in of like, hey, like they're saying yes when they could say no. And so that means that there's something about you that sparks their interest. And so because of that, you need to start walking in this, authority of like, hey, you're gifted to do this. Yeah. So you need to have more confidence as you step into the room.
Accept what they're telling you and believe. So was there struggles, and there might still be struggles with that common like imposter syndrome things? Do you deal with that, or do you get yourself in you feel like you deal with that pretty well? Because some people really struggle with that.
No, I think I am in a state and in a spot in my life where I have surrounded myself with enough people that are wiser than I, that I've gotten enough great advice that helps me in those situations. And obviously it's something that everybody battles with. And I don't think it ever truly goes away. And I think that that's just part of us as being humans. Yes. But one of my great friends, Katrin Thali, said, we've been processing over the past year, and she's been talking to me about it's not arrogant, it's authorized. And so she's like, God has and it's shifted and racked.
That's a tattoo.
Oh, I love it. But it's something that has shifted and morphed my world, because you walk into things that God has gifted you with, God has placed in your path and has allowed you these opportunities, and you're not walking in arrogant saying, I have it all together, I'm the person that can do this and no one else can, but you're walking in authorized saying, He's gifted me and He's opened up this door and this opportunity. Yeah. So by me not fully walking into it and being the person that He's called me to be in that situation and scenario, and using the gifts that He's given me, like I'm shortchanging. I'm shortchanging God. Yeah. So I walk into it saying now, and no matter what I do and where I'm going, like I'm authorized by God to be in this moment. Whether I'm the absolute best sounding person, the best looking person, the best mover, how it goes, I'm not here to judge that. What I'm here to say is God has opened up this door for me. Yeah. He's allowed me to be here. So I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And because of that, a lot of what I do has read as authentic, pure, and what it is. And that's truly what I've tried to have it come across as. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm leading worship or whether I'm on a Broadway stage, it doesn't matter, because I'm specifically positioned for that position at that moment.
Yeah, and I think Jess and Taryn both have been reading that book, like You're the Girl for the Job.
Yeah.
And it's that same, like, it doesn't matter if other people are the same or more qualified. You're the person that's there.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
And I know that that's also true for you, because you bust it. Like, you work harder than and burn both ends of the midnight oil, like more than many other people I know. So tell me then, let's transition a little bit to like the last little bit of getting all of this stuff for Lion King, because I would agree with you. It really seemed like this was, from my perspective, it seemed like it fell together really easily.
Absolutely.
In a weird, like, ordained way. It's like, well, it has to be because, like, how the heck does this guy, you know, my cousin, just all of a sudden go from, like, hey, I'm doing some local plays to boom, he's on Broadway, and you're super talented. You have the work ethic, but it definitely, we've talked about that, is like, it had to be God, because, like, what the heck, suddenly I'm touring on Broadway right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about kind of what's the audition process, and then what kind of then transition to, like, now that you're in this role, what does a day or a week look like? Which I know is changing a little bit now that you're done with all the, like, crazy rehearsals. So maybe what does it look like to start off, and then what does it look like to do it now that you're kind of fully in the roles?
Yeah. So for me, and I love to say this, just in the theater world and theater aspect, is everyone's journey is different. And so because of that, my audition process looks different than other people's audition process. I also know by watching and having friends that are in the industry, it's been a process and a journey to watch different people that have either moved to New York and are quote unquote doing the grind work of, auditions and then babysitting jobs or waiting tables or something like that. So I always start out by saying my path is my path, and it's different. So because I started late in the game, I didn't go to a conservatory for theater. It wasn't specified in the college that I went to that I did. And so I kind of started, quote unquote, a little late in the game. But it's one of those things of, even because of that, I was older. So because I was older, probably life experience helped me where other people's training helped them.
Yeah.
And so the audition process for me was a video. It started out as a video because I have a wife and a kid. I was established with a full-time job. At the time, it was actually Lexington. Mm-hmm. And so I was auditioning for Hamilton, trying to figure out those things. Got to a point where it was either come to Louisville and be a worship pastor, or stay in Lexington and keep on the grind.
Start that grind.
And start the
really
grind to really try to do Hamilton, going up to New York more often than not, and really doing that. And so my wife and I prayed through and decided to come to Southeast in Louisville. But one of the cool things is even in that process, my wife was like, it doesn't mean Broadway is done. It just means it looks different than what it has been. You don't have the luxury and the opportunity to just fly up and go to open calls or just as regularly as you did. And so
nobody really has that
yeah,
luxury
because nobody
do
does. But I was afforded that luxury in Lexington. Mm-hmm. And so before we moved to Louisville, my manager had asked me to submit a video for The Lion King. And so I did. And so decided not to do Hamilton. I had submitted the video for Lion King. Honestly, I didn't want to at the time.
What, before you keep going, what does it look like when you submit a video? What were you singing or doing for that?
Yeah,
is that YouTube? You're literally doing like a private YouTube video?
No. So it just looks different for every show. For what I had to do for The Lion King, I had some sides, which are like scenes from The Lion King, that I had somebody read off screen, and then I interacted with them and performed on screen. So I videoed that, and then also videoed a song from the show that they sent me. And so one of the things is like I have representation, and so because I have representation, they kind of work out all the things of like what I need to do and how I need to do it. And Peggy Stamps,
your life a little bit,
yeah,
and not stress about all the emails and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my manager, Peggy Stamps, she's absolutely great. She has the Square Peg Group. That's her company that she has. And
Peg by Peggy. That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
She's absolutely awesome. She has, she's kind of worked with me through the whole process. And because of that, like, she does a lot of the groundwork and a lot of the things that those that don't have representation have to figure out. And so because of her doing this, it was like I could still live my life, and she would help me in areas that I didn't know about or that I didn't just have the time for and live my life. Yeah. And so it was really cool because I could still be in Lexington and Louisville and she was still working on my behalf.
And is she in New York?
So she works both in New York and in Lexington. So
Okay.
she's based out of New York, though.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it's absolutely great. So somebody that's on the ground knows what's going on. And so with that, the video submission, 2 years later, I was fully indoctrinated into Southeast, had no plan, no thought about leaving. We were really getting ready to launch into the next season. We just switched over senior pastors and launching into like, what does this new season look like? And I was really getting excited and stepping into that. And all of a sudden, on our wedding anniversary, actually, Peggy called me and she was like, so I got a call. And I was like, okay. And she was like, the Lion King would like for you to come and audition.
And that was roughly 2 years since you
Yeah.
did that video.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And so it's just crazy to think that things had been working even when I wasn't thinking about them. And so because of that, it was really cool because my wife and I had a conversation and she's like, babe, this is exactly what we've been praying for, that Broadway would seek after you. You wouldn't necessarily be running after Broadway.
Oh, I guess I got to do this.
Yeah. And so
I guess I
literally
gotta
she
do
was like, you can't not do this. Like, this is the prayer that we've been doing. And so if God is answering the prayer in this way, like, you have to go. And then you tag that with my friend who had given me that quote of, it's not arrogant, it's authorized. Like, God already authorized
I
what
really
was
gotta
going
do
on.
this. I got to
I'm
have
like,
these tough conversations with everybody and
yeah.
and pray and give it a shot.
Yeah. And so like, that's what I did. And so went up, walked through the audition process through different aspects. And then 2 weeks after I auditioned, got a call and they said, hey, we would love for you to be in the ensemble and understudy Simba in the national tour of the Lion King. And I was like, okay, here we go.
And then the longest 3 months ever where you weren't able to tell anyone, and we weren't able to tell anyone, but we got to know, so
yes.
I felt really cool. So it was September, right? So
Yes.
just a couple months ago. September, you literally just hop on the tour with them in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And you're literally deep into the pool. What was that? Because it was 3 weeks, and then was it about 3 weeks?
It was about
or a
4.
month?
Yeah, it was about 4 weeks.
And
yeah.
then you hop in Boston.
Yes.
So what was that month like?
Literally, my job was to rehearse. My job was to learn the show. Luckily enough, Lindy Franklin Smith and Jeremy Smith with the Lexington Theater Company are so brilliant in what they do. And with the regional theater company, we literally put up a show in 2.5 weeks from start to finish, rehearsal all the way through the performance.
I remember that with the Newsies. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, it's really only 2 weeks. I remember thinking that's nuts.
Yeah, but it's insane because the process of doing those shows, whether it's A Chorus Line or Legally Blonde or the Newsies, Songs for New World, the rehearsal aspect of that made me equipped and available and able to do the rehearsal process. Honestly,
Long days.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was weird because I literally truly learned my show in 3 days, and everybody looked at me like, why do you already know your show? How do you already know your show?
I don't want to not know.
I was
my
like,
show. Yeah.
But coming into it already prepared with certain things, that way it made it very easy and available for me to learn the show. But then also that allowed me the rehearsal process for the next 3.5 weeks of just truly ingraining and indoctrinating this role so that I could do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah, not just knowing it, but being it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I was able to actually go in earlier than I was scheduled to go in. And so my contract was like, hey, you can go in, your contract start date was October 22nd. Well, I ended up starting before October 22nd. Part of that was needs that need to be done. And then also part of it is hey, we have you, you're available, you're ready, and you're good to go. So let's make sure that let's throw you in. It's awesome.
I know kind of the nuts and bolts of it too is being a dad and a provider for a family. I remember you saying yeah, the more parts I can cover, that's a bonus on things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I never thought about all of those business aspects of it. So how many parts currently, let's go into that now. So what's your role? What parts do you cover in all the ensemble parts? And because I know you're an elephant's leg and you're grass and you're all of these parts, and you does each part you play sing?
Yes. So all of the things that I do, I'm singing while I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. So truly, I'm in the ensemble track. So I'm a singer track. Okay. And then from that, in my singer track, I have things that I have to do that are for that track specifically. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I'm in the elephant leg. I'm a hyena during Be Prepared. Mm-hmm. I'm the ostrich in I Just Can't Wait to Be King that Nala rides. So it's like all the things that I have to do for that role are considered one lump sum that I do for that track. Okay. But then also I understudy Simba. So when Simba cannot do the show for whatever reason, whether he's on vacation or maybe he's sick or something like that, I'm one of the understudies for Simba.
Yeah. So what is currently the depth chart, basically? Because I heard that analogy. I was like, it really is like a football team. Like, so what is the depth chart for Simba?
Yeah, it's cool. So we have,
and you're obviously the adult Simba.
Yes,
it's not clear.
So but even I like to think of it and equate it to, because everybody knows the term "the show must go on," and so because of that, we just have different people that cover different roles for different reasons, and so there are typically usually like 2 or 3 covers per principal role. And that's kind of what I've learned with every Broadway show. They just make sure that everything is covered so
it's
that
it's redundant.
Just so that the show can go on. Yeah. And what the beauty of what we do is we make magic happen on stage so that the audience that pays money to come see a great show sees a show and doesn't know anything else. So even if sometimes we're running crazy backstage because we're doing a split track, meaning somebody's doing more than one role, or if something happens during the show and we have to sub in somebody during the middle of the show, no one knows the difference on stage, or no one knows the difference in the audience.
So some of those swings that cover multiple or cover like everything, and some of those understudies, you're there every night unless you're literally off work then, because you need to be ready literally if somebody twists an ankle. Yeah.
So like I'm in the show, I'm an ensemble member in the show, but we have something that's called a swing who we have singer swings and dancer swings. They know all of the tracks for the ensemble, and some of them honestly know a couple of the principal roles as well. And they have to be at the theater every night, and that doesn't mean they necessarily perform every night, but they're there every night so that just in case they have to go on or somebody has to call out or somebody's sick, they can dive in and jump in and go.
The theater jack of all trades.
Yes, truly. And we say swings are the most important people because they truly keep the show running when people don't realize that they are.
Keep the anxiety down. Like nobody has to really, really stress.
Oh, they're stressed. Yeah. My friends that are swings are like, oh, it's a stressful job. But it's amazing. Like they say a thing called the swing brain. You just have to be able to deal with and understand like high pressure, high stakes situations. And it's beautiful to watch somebody that is a swing that can deal and make decisions and make choices that are brilliant, that keep the show running and keep everyone at ease. Because I look and I say, oh, I know my buddy Nathan's going in, and Nathan is amazing, and I know his heart and mind, and I know that he can handle it.
See, I think that's amazing too, because at the end of the day, whether I'm a music therapist, you're in a musical, you're in a rock band, it's like really at the end of the day, what happens if someone has an injury or whatever, right? It's not like a fire is in a house, right? Or something like that. Like we get the luxury to be able to perform and be able to make music, right? But it's funny because I bet like that swing brain, I bet there's those moments that their brain is like fight or flight, that they are probably experiencing the same things of literally putting out a fire. Yes. Not to downplay a firefighter, obviously. No. I think that's kind of amazing, like the human response to, I'm putting out danger, even though what a luxury, we're, performing, we're in a musical, like it's not life or death, but the show must go on. So cool. Well, let's talk about some of the like day-to-day things then. So, now that you're kind of in the day-to-day, you come in usually not too, like you said, sometimes up to 30 minutes before the show. Yeah. And then how regularly are you all doing things like other rehearsals? What does makeup look like? What's like all that stuff that goes into a regular day-to-day? And how many you're doing? 7 shows a week?
8 shows a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have Mondays off. They're like our golden days.
It's just like church.
They're like our weekends.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. So we have Mondays off. So we perform Tuesday through Sunday. Typically 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday. And kind of truly what our day-to-day looks like is it's different for every person. And for me, I'm a morning person, so I always get up and go to the gym in the morning. Then I usually find a coffee shop somewhere that we are. And I usually just do my quiet time, my Bible study, and just kind of center myself that way. And then from there, we literally have the rest of the day to kind of live life with our castmates or our family that's on tour in different aspects. And so we may go shopping, or we may go do a hobby. Like everybody has different hobbies that they do.
Just be a person.
Yeah, be a person.
Yeah.
For me,
what time are you done roughly in the morning with your kind of regular routine? Is that like, I know you're up early.
I am. So I usually go to the gym about 5:30, and then by the time I get done with coffee and study and all that, it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
When most people are waking up.
And, yeah. And then, unless they have toddlers.
Yes.
And the shows start usually at 7, right?
Usually like 7:30 during the week, and then 8 during the weekends.
So you have
typically
roughly like 10 to
all day.
like 10 to like 6:30 before you're even thinking about like getting in.
Yeah, but it's crazy because knowing what you do at night informs what you do throughout the day.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, like typically at the gym or in the morning at some point in time, I'll do some kind of vocal warm up. So to make sure that I'm ready vocally for the night. Mm-hmm. Obviously I've done my physical warm up by lifting and yoga and all these other aspects, and it just kind of depends on the day of what you do. But truly, throughout the day, you don't.
No White Castle.
No, oh gosh, no.
I know you don't like that. But yeah, you take care of yourself.
Yeah, you take care of yourself.
Not be an idiot.
Basically. Yeah. And so because of that, for our show in particular, the principals get called an hour before the show so that they can start their makeup. And then me as an ensemble member, I have to be at the show 30 minutes. I have a half-hour call before the show starts.
Who has the longest call?
Usually the principals. It's
about the same though. Nobody, not like Rafiki is there at 4 o'clock or anything crazy like that.
But you have cast and crew that are there hours before that, getting prepared and ready for us. Sorry, you don't have cast. You have the crew that's getting there hours before, getting ready for us to get there an hour before and 30 minutes before. And so like it's very much a team effort, and everybody doing a lot of different things at a lot of different times that make it come across to be very seamless. And
for you all, seamless.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And when people are like, you only have to be there 30 minutes before, I'm like, yes, I do. But you have people there that are hours before getting there and getting prepared so that I only have to be there 30 minutes before. And that's their job, and that's what they love. Yeah. And that's, we joke all the time, like, that's their ministry. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for me, I'm not a lights and sounds guy. Like, that's not my ministry. That's not what I do. Yep. But the people that do it, they love doing it, and they get jazzed by doing it. Yeah. So, like, for them to set up the perfect light scheme and the perfect staging and the perfect this, and this, like, that's what they love to do. But they don't want to be on stage. Yeah. They're not about that life. Like, that's not their ministry. They're like, you perform all day long. True. We'll get everything set up so you can perform.
Everybody needs their thing to nerd out on.
Absolutely.
Sure. And there's a reason that Lion King is so successful. It's a well-oiled machine. I mean, I'm assuming any high-performing show like the Lion King is going to be bam, bam, bam.
Absolutely.
It's going to be like that lined up.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of dive into some more general thing, or some more kind of specific things, I guess. So what are some of your favorite parts of the show? What do you like to do the most?
Oh man. For me, my all-time favorite part in the show is the opening number, Circle of Life. Part of it is because being in the elephant leg, I walked down the aisle. And so being able to watch and see people experience The Lion King for the first time, whether it's their first Broadway show or whether they've seen other shows, and it's their first time seeing Lion King. It's cool to watch people's faces.
It is insane. Last year in Orlando, we went, and I think it was maybe the same exact tour you're on.
Okay.
So we saw it in Orlando with a lot of our friends before we moved back. And you've rubbed off totally on me because I was not a musical person. I grew up in rock bands. And so I go to The Lion King. Obviously, similar memories. I was like 4 years old. It was the first movie I saw in the movie theater.
Yes.
I was the first Halloween I went out. I was Simba. So I was like, this role was meant for you, Darian, because it means so much to me. So I go last year and I see it, and I'm so pumped to go tonight because literally, like, goosebumps, almost crying, like, and it is insane, and it's the first thing that happens.
Absolutely,
it is so nuts.
It's crazy.
You have to see it. People have to. It is incredible, and that was the first time I thought, like, oh my gosh, I get why people are obsessed with musicals.
Yeah.
And being there. I think that's a bigger thing. For me, there are certain genres of music and certain things that in certain performances that I think, oh, you have to see it in real life.
Yes.
And that circle of life is like, if you see it, it'll change you. Like, it is nuts.
Yeah. So because of that expression and seeing that on people's faces and seeing it in kids' eyes whenever they're experiencing that for the first time, it's quite amazing. So that's probably one of my favorite spots. And then I absolutely just love the hyenas. And so
they're crazy.
Yeah. So in a song called Chow Down, with the three hyenas that we have with Martina, Keith, and Robbie, they are just such phenomenal performers and such phenomenal people, both on and off the stage. It reads so well because their friendship is so genuine and so eclectic to like who they are, that on stage they literally have the time of their life. Yeah. And so for me, even being like one of their coworkers,
Shinzi and
Shinzi, Ed, and Bonsai, like, they are so great. And so, like, I love watching and experiencing them every night, but just even hearing them every night, because the choices that they make are just so genuine.
Is there riffing? Is there improvisation in some of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of them being who they are, is they're such phenomenal performers that they get a little leeway in spaces that other people may not get sometimes, not necessarily in The Lion King, but just in general in Broadway musicals, because it's like they're trusted so much with the gift that they have and who they are and what they do.
Just let them flow.
Yeah, like, I trust you to do some things.
That's one of my favorite things about seeing anyone doing anything creative, is like when you know you're in that moment, you're like, I'm just observing. I'm just witnessing now. This is awesome. So, any other favorite parts that stick out?
Those are kind of my two favorites. People don't know this, but I'm a huge Lion fan, even before The Lion King. So for me, it was like crazy to watch it all come together. But I love the lioness hunt, because I think that's one of my favorite things in the world, is the beauty of how
you mean
lions.
Natural. You just love lions.
Yes.
You don't like the Detroit Lions. No.
Oh.
Okay. No, I'm just checking where the lion love goes. No, okay.
It's the
just
actual,
lions in general.
Yeah. So one of the weird things about me, I love National Geographics and watching lions.
Me too.
And so, like, big cats are like a cool thing for me. And like,
well, your son is very obsessed with lions now too.
Obsessed.
He has one interest right now, and that's Lion King.
He's like, raw. Like,
and Marley too, but Titus even more so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lioness hunt is probably a cool spot for me.
Sweet. So you kind of hinted at it a minute ago, kind of talking about, being able to watch like the hyenas perform. But do you have any like funny stories, little favorite memories or anecdotes from even, the past few months that, a regular person sitting in the seat wouldn't know? But, what are some of those things that, you're in a band or you're on stage and you're able to, pull off a joke, or you're playing tricks on each other? Or what are some of those behind the scenes things that are funny that we don't see?
Oh man, I don't even know. One, they happen so like regularly / irregularly.
You're not documenting.
Yeah. They just happen. So it's funny. But I would say the thing that I love about The Lion King, and I love about the cast, and I love about live theater, is you're in it every night, and you have moments that you have with people, but then also you have things that you see that you've never seen before. And so whereas like there's little things that the audience may not see, we have little moments in different spots. So like the He Lives in You reprise, it's almost like we are the ancestors of Simba, or the kings of the past, if you would say, based on the storyline. And we are singing to almost give him hope in life and infuse in him the courage that he needs to go back and be who he's called to be. And so because of that, we want to sing and have joy in our hearts and in our faces and our movement and what we do. And so doing the dance and singing and watching your castmates, there's moments that you're just like, you literally are just beaming from ear to ear.
This is awesome.
Yeah, because you're all in it to win it, and it's like, let's go. And sometimes
you work on being authentic, but then you're like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
Yeah. But the crazy part about it is even sometimes castmates are having a bad day or something's going on outside the theater, but to know that one, they are there performing because that's what they're called to do, and they're leaving that at the door. It's one of those things of like, sometimes oh man, this castmate is going through, so I'm gonna give them even more. Give them even more of my energy and my love and my joy that God's given me to kind of boost their spirits. And so it's like, even though we're doing this for the storyline of Simba, sometimes you're doing it for one another, and it's cool to see that and experiencing that.
There's a metaphysical
night to
thing
night.
That goes on in that performing.
Absolutely.
Culture.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, now let's think about if somebody else, what they would need to know to be able to do a video audition and do this. Well, what are some common myths that you've heard or seen, or people may have rudely said to you, or things like that, that about Broadway and about touring that have turned out you've like debunked some of those things?
We talked about it in the audition process. Like, everyone's path is different. So, even though I did not go to conservatory, even though I didn't start dance when I was 5, that doesn't disqualify me from doing what I'm doing. However, I also want to encourage and say, get the training where you can get the training. So even though my path was different, that I didn't do all of these training aspects, there are still seasons and times and things that I wish that I would have learned before getting on the job. And even now, I'm still trying to learn and do some things that better help me and that will better suit my role in what I'm doing. And so even though paths can be different, make sure that you are getting the training that you need.
Try to get a head start if you can.
Absolutely.
It's not going to hurt.
Absolutely. But breaking the myth of like, you have to go to conservatory college, or you
only
have
people
to.
from Juilliard are.
Exactly. So that's a myth that people that aren't in the theater world don't really understand.
I think it's music industry in general too.
Yes.
There are great musicians that don't know a lick of theory. There's people making $1 bajillion that did not go to conservatory.
Yeah.
And
YouTube sensations and whatnot. And so paths are different. And so it's whether you are formally auditioning, whether somebody sees you on a YouTube channel, or like maybe you're in college, because that's happened where people have come to a show of somebody and they're like, oh, they need to be on Broadway right now. I'm going to go get them and bring them on Broadway.
Literally dropping out a second semester of college.
Yeah, seriously. Dear Van Hansen just had a high school graduate, I think, or a high school student become, part of their Broadway cast. So it's one of those things of the path is not conventional anyway now. And so it's like everyone's path's different. So breaking that myth, I would say, is one thing. 2, I would say it is not as easy as you think it is in terms of both the road once you are trying to get there and once you get there. It's hard. And everyone's like, oh, it's okay. You get all day. You can do whatever you want, this, that, or the other. And yes, there are perks to the job, just like there's perks to any job. But still, it's a job. And so there are moments that are hard. There are moments that you're tired. There are moments that you're upset with your boss or the director or whatever, or the choreographer. It doesn't matter. But it's one of those things of learning and understanding. It's still a job. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, they can look at me and say, you're not performing your job. It's time for you to go.
And I don't care what you're feeling today. 7:30, it's got to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You have to produce the same way of if you were in a hospital and didn't produce, or if you were a teacher
selling a car,
exactly. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're not doing the work, you shouldn't be doing the job. And so, understanding like that's so true to fact of that. I would say those are some things.
I know that is got to be a huge contributor to your success in all this, just because of your attitude and your work ethic. I think it's like, combined with the talent and everything, it's like, this guy's fun to be around, like, I'm sure that's got to be a big part of it, is you want to be around. And you've mentioned that already, and I've heard you talk about that. The Lion King cast and crew is just a family.
Absolutely.
And being around them is a joy. So, yes. You just kind of hinted at it, but what are some of the reasons now that you're seeing, people be jaded, burned out, fail, give up? What are some of the things that you see or you've been warned about to kind of be successful in Broadway?
And I would say Broadway in general, not specific to Lion King. I would just say in Broadway, because for me, yes, I am indoctrinated in the Lion King, but I have friends that are in Hamilton, that are in Dear Evan Hansen, that, are in Ain't Too Proud, like all these musicals that are the who's who of musicals right now, and what's going on. And so I would say for me, the biggest thing and biggest advice that I've gotten, one is keep the main thing the main thing. Make sure that you are doing things that both enhance you as a person, not just an artist. So your life can't be just the musical that you're in. You have to have some kind of outlet that is balancing your work, simply because before I was working full time and musicals were my hobby. And so now musicals are my work. And so I have to find something else that's my hobby.
Yeah. So what are you doing now?
It's crazy. It's weird. I brought my bowling ball on tour with me.
Look at you.
I find bowling alleys at different cities, just because that's what I enjoy to do.
That's a fun, like, cultural peak too.
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like here?
Yeah. It's like cool things to just find different things in every city. It's still considered a little bit of like the same genre or realm as musical theater, but I have my tap shoes on tour. I'm learning to tap. And then recently I just am bringing my guitar on tour because I want to learn how to play the guitar. Great. So even though they're still in the musical genre or music genre, they're not still the musical. So there are things for me that better me, that I want to learn, that I'm interested in. And so because of that, I kind of have my me time outside of that theater world. And lastly, I'm a big community person. So whether that's hanging out with castmates or going and serving in the community at different spots, every city that we go to, I have connections with the local church, and my heart and desires to pour into that church in any way that they need me to help, whether it's leading worship, come to do a workshop, just loving on the staff, whatever that looks like. Also, my buddy and I, we kind of sing and do music at hospitals. And so the heart's desire is now that I'm officially in the tour and done with a lot of the grind rehearsals, to just find different aspects and avenues of serving and singing at hospitals, or, loving on the community in different ways.
Perfect. Well, good advice. And I think that that's good advice for anything music related. Also, it's just, keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
That's good for everything.
Absolutely.
But I think that goes back to, I'm annoyed at my boss. I'm annoyed at my coworker. What's the main thing, man?
Yeah.
We got to go on. We got to do this.
Exactly.
So my last few things get into kind of our mission specifically, and that is, how do you inspire others to make more music? So what are some things that you do that inspire others?
Yeah. One of the things is giving back, understanding that, first off, this is bigger than me. and understanding that God's given me this gift. And so not keeping it for just myself and not for my own purpose and my own things and desires, but giving it back. And so serving in that aspect. But truly it's one of those things of sharing your joy, your love, your light. And I talk about it all the time with my friends of, if I were to walk into a room, I want to help shift the atmosphere of what's going on. And that's Jesus working in and through me with a smile, with a hug, with a conversation, or just with being present with people. And so you never know truly what people are going through and what people are facing on a day-to-day basis. And so because of that, being a light to them and showing them Jesus's love where they may not experience it in any other way. And so having kind of that mindset of, if you were the only Jesus people saw, like,
what image are they getting?
What are they going to see?
Is it distorted or is it clear?
Yeah. And by any means, I hope doing this interview and talking, like, I haven't come across of having it all together, because I know that I definitely don't. And I never want to make it seem like I do. But I do know that, like, God's worked on me. He is working on me, and he is shifting and shaping my heart. And so if I can share my story and what I've been through and where I am, whether that's through a musical, whether that's through a song, or whether that's just through a conversation, like, that's what I'm called to do. And I feel like us as believers and us as artists, that's what we're called to do as well. If you are an artist in any shape, way, or form, whether musical theater, any kind of art form, painting, it doesn't really matter. You're sharing a gift for a reason, and you're sharing it to show people. And so why are you showing people that? Because you're trying to change something in them, or you're trying to express something inside yourself to someone. So do that in such an authentic way that you're sharing your gift and sharing your light.
Yeah, I know you probably feel the same way as me. The older I get, the more I realize the impact of that.
Absolutely.
If you would have asked me as a teenager, I was like, I'm playing guitar because I love playing guitar.
Yeah.
Like, but now it's like, oh, this matters. And,
yes.
Well, you already kind of hit on the next part, which was, why do you inspire others? So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about, if there's one person that what you have to say today can make a difference for them, whether that's somebody wanting to be on Broadway, somebody, that's scared to get up in front of an audience and sing, scared to try whatever it is and fail. Can you just speak to the one? What would you tell them?
I would tell you what my mentor told me 3 years ago when I started full bore with going for musicals and wanting to dive into this industry. He told me to chase the no. And I was like, okay, chase the no. What does that mean? So many people shortchange who they are and what they can do and their abilities because they're afraid and they have that fear. And so most people never reach the potential that they could reach because they're scared of the no. But if you are chasing the no, the biggest thing is that you're going to find an area in your world and in your life that you could never dream and imagine. I would have never guessed that I was going to lead worship for the 4th largest church in America. I would have never guessed and imagined that I would be a Broadway star, because technically that's what I am. I'm on a Broadway musical. Yeah. So like I walk into a place and they say, hey, that's a Broadway star because you're on Broadway.
And you're like, oh gosh, I guess I am.
That I know. And that
Holy cow.
That registers and clicks. But if I was so fearful to think because I didn't have the training, because I thought I was too old, because I started too late in the game, because of this, and this, all these excuses, I would never step out and do the things that I'm doing now. And even more so, everyone's like, oh, so you've made it. Like, you've been a worship pastor at one of the biggest churches. You've been on Broadway. Like, you've arrived. And I'm like, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Like,
and then it's work too,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, then you have to show up
to keep
every
it going.
day.
Yeah. And even the next thing. And I'm not looking to do the next thing right now, but I'm open-handed to say, God, where are you taking me? Yeah. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And so because of that, the chasing the no looks different for me now.
Yeah.
And so it's being adamant of being present and being available with what I've been called to right now, which is the Lion King. Yeah. Which is still being a believer and and fighting to make Jesus known in every aspect, and that's my ministry. And so just because I am no longer a worship pastor officially in the church doesn't mean that I stop that calling that he's given me to be an ordained worship pastor. No, I'm still ordained. I'm still in the ministry. My mission field just looks different. I'm still in a Broadway musical. Even if I choose to do another musical or I choose to stop doing a musical, that's still what I am and what I do.
It lives in you.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And so because of that, like I encourage the person that thinks they are not qualified or they are being burned out to find your purpose, to find your vision, to find who God has called you to be and what he's called you to do, and do it. Even if it feels like you're the only one that is running towards that, you have to believe in yourself and you have to do it. Chase that no.
Chase that no. That's another tattoo. That's like a neck tattoo or like the lip.
Oh, the lip. That's the lip. Just pull it down.
Chase the no. Don't give that to me. Chase the no. Cool. I've got a few quick questions. They don't have to be small answers.
All right.
But first, I want you to pull up Apple Music or Spotify. What's the last track you played?
Hillsong United, People Tour, Whole Heart.
There it is. If you were an instrument, what would you be?
I say trumpet because that's what I played, but I would probably say piano.
Piano. Why piano? What does that say about you?
Couple different things. Oh man, what does it say about me? If that was the case, I'd say guitar.
Okay. I'm a music therapist. I'm
just saying. Simply because it could be put in a lot of different situations, but it's very, very transitional, movable. So like I could take it to a foreign country and be on a mission trip and play guitar. I could sit in my basement by myself and play guitar.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. What's been inspiring you recently?
Oh man, my wife. Truly so.
Yeah.
Just to see her and watch and know what she does, to allow me to do what I'm doing is pretty dope.
Yeah.
Pretty dope.
She's awesome.
Yes, she
awesome.
is.
Our wives are awesome. Shout out to our wives.
Yes.
Here's the secret herbs and spices. What's a pro tip? Give me a pro tip about doing your work, doing what you do, taking care of yourself.
Oh man.
One pro tip you can give somebody.
Exactly what you said. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
No one else is going to take care of you the way that you can take care of you. So you know what you need, whether that's a day to just relax and veg and do nothing, or whether that's, hey, I need to go shopping because I need to just go shopping, or whether it's I need to go to the gym, or whether it's I need to go play some ball. Do what you need to do to make sure that you are whole and good.
Perfect. Opposite end. What's your go-to junk food?
Oh man. Starburst jelly beans.
I was wondering if you're going to say popsicles.
Oh.
Because you are the only person I know that eats as many, consumes as many popsicles.
And
but Starburst jelly beans.
Yeah,
those are really solid.
that's the public Starburst jelly beans. no one knows about the popsicles because that's at night. Too late. It's already out there.
So and then last but not least, what person, project, organization? Pick somebody to lift up now and tell us about what they're doing and somebody you want to lift up.
Man, that's so crazy. I would say the Hope Choir at Southeast Christian Church. They're so phenomenally awesome. It's a disability ministry that I try to at least call once every couple weeks, FaceTime in and see them anytime that I'm around, just kind of see and hang with them. They are just so phenomenal and sometimes so misunderstood in a lot of ways. And so I try to shed a lot of light when I get a chance to see them and just love on them and let them know and let them see and let them understand how special they truly are. And so just absolutely love them. So
great. Well, I'm gonna get some links for you that we can link to some stuff so
Sweet.
that people can watch some stuff by them or listen to some stuff by them.
Awesome. I love it.
Well, that's it. I know we've spent quite a while. You've got a brunch to get to. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
It's literally so awesome to be a witness, to be on your team, to be able to do this live with you. So I'm pumped. We're coming tonight.
Yes.
Doc Crow's coming for you.
I love
Lion
it.
King, we're coming for you. I'm hoping you're Simba, but if you're not,
I'll be in the
Elephant
ensemble.
Leg
It's
will still
good.
be
Come
tight.
on.
I'm excited for it all because I'm also interested on the nerdy side of seeing you like in like 7 things. And
Yeah.
like, oh man, he just changed outfits like 6 times. But where can people find you, connect with you when they're, in person? Obviously, come to the Lion King.
Yeah.
But when they're surfing the World Wide
Surfing the web.
where can they find you?
Yeah. Instagram _Darien Sanders _ Facebook, my website, DarienSanders.com.
Thanks for joining us today for the Make More Music podcast. If you left feeling as encouraged as I did, I'd love if you'd take your time to subscribe, leave a rating and review on your podcast player. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at make.more.music. You can send any comments, questions, concerns to makemoremusicpodcast@gmail.com. And if you'd love to call in and ask a question, you can do so at our Google Voice number at 502-509-5420. That's it for us today. Follow the next stories coming at you at Make More Music. Remember, give more grace, share more love, make more music.